Ding. Divine energy, gas state, has been extracted from the divine energy crystal. Channeling divine energy through the designated pathways. Repeating circulation of divine energy. Repeating circulation of. Ding. Divine energy has been refined. Channeling refined energy to the lower dantian. Ding. The energy pathway has been obstructed. The refined energy has unblocked the obstruction and opened the lower dantian. The refined energy is filling up your lower dantian. You have entered the energy gathering realm. You have entered the middle stage of the energy gathering realm. You have entered the late stage of the energy gathering realm. You have entered the peak stage of the energy gathering realm. Ding. Accumulated refined energy has fully condensed. You have entered the spirit condensation realm. As Vaan absorbed the divine energy crystals and circulated them through his body in sync with the system, his refinement speed doubled. At the same time, his energy cultivation quickly soared at a speed that would only make energy cultivators turn green with envy. After all, while the system had shown a gradual process, he did not even stay in the energy gathering realm for 3 breaths before advancing to the next realm. Due to his already sturdy body, he had practically skipped the first realm of energy cultivation. Nevertheless, it didn't end there. Shortly after entering the spirit condensation realm, his cultivation continued to soar to the next realm with seemingly endless momentum. Within a few minutes, the gate of the revolving core realm was forced open. The accumulated energy in his lower dantian had regained its original solid state. Although it seemed like a pointless process since he transformed solid divine energy into gas, only to turn it back into a solid state again, the revolving core in his lower dantian was completely different from the original divine energy crystal. After all, the revolving core completely belonged to him. On the other hand, the divine energy crystal belonged to someone else from the past. Even if it entered his body as it was, he would hardly have any control over it. That was why it had to be broken down and refined. In the process of circulating the divine energy throughout his body, he was wiping out its residual will and replacing it with his own. Only energy with his will was his to control freely. Nevertheless, the divine energy crystal in Vaan's hand was quickly depleted within minutes. All of its divine energy was absorbed, refined, and assimilated with his revolving core. Vaan took out the next piece of divine energy crystal from his heaven-swallowing space and continued to cultivate. The middle stage of the revolving core realm. The late stage of the revolving core realm. The peak stage of the revolving core realm. It took an instant to enter the energy gathering realm, several breaths to enter the spirit condensation realm, and several minutes to enter the revolving core realm. However, entering the heaven ascension realm took Vaan more than an hour. Although it was much slower than the earlier realms of energy cultivation, Vaan had no complaints about the speed. After all, according to some of the fragmented memories of his past life, most cultivators from desolate realms would spend at least a decade in the energy gathering realm, 2 decades in the spirit condensation realm, and half a century in the revolving core realm. As for the heaven ascension realm, many cultivators from these desolate realms would take at least 100 years to reach it. Of course, the main problem for their slow progress was the scarcity of spirit energy in their desolate realms. However, even in the higher realms, reaching the heaven ascension realm in 1 hour was very rare. No doubt, Vaan had the system, his powerful bloodline, and overwhelming talents to thank for such an achievement. After reaching the early stage of heaven ascension realm, Vaan ended his cultivation and shifted his attention back to the everlasting blood mantra. Perhaps due to the fragmented memories of his past life, he felt rather familiar with his energy cultivation. Thus, it didn't take him much time and effort to gain complete control of his energy. This should do. Vaan thought after several energy circulations. Ding. You are reattempting to refine the snow tiger blood essence with the everlasting blood mantra. A latent power is emerging from within the snow tiger blood essence. Ding. You have successfully refined a drop of snow tiger origin blood. You have successfully refined a drop of snow tiger origin blood. You have successfully refined a drop of snow tiger devil origin blood. Ding. You have learned the secret of the snow tiger's ancestral bloodline, the snow tiger devil bloodline. You have learned how to strengthen the snow tiger devil bloodline of the snow tiger demon race. Ding. You have assimilated the snow tiger origin blood. The snow tiger origin blood has been replaced by the snow tiger devil origin blood. Your body has been slightly strengthened by the snow tiger devil origin blood. You have achieved initial success in the everlasting blood mantra. After successfully refining his first origin blood, Vaan had no doubt the everlasting blood mantra was a supplementary technique for energy cultivation. Cultivation. However, Vaan didn't expect the first type of blood essence he drew from the blood bottle to possess a strong ancestral bloodline. He thought the bottle of 100 different blood essences collected was something Hecate had done casually on short notice. Was that not the case? Or was it just a coincidence? Nevertheless, Vaan didn't look into it too deeply. He continued to cultivate the everlasting blood mantra with the remaining blood essence in the bottle. Ding. You have assimilated the demon deer origin blood. You have assimilated the wind leopard origin blood. You have assimilated the ice phoenix god origin blood. You have assimilated the frost giant origin blood. You have assimilated the snow harpy origin blood. You have assimilated the dark fae god origin blood. Ding. You have assimilated 10 types of origin blood. You have reached the everlasting blood mantra's first stage of regeneration. Peak rank regeneration has been slightly strengthened. Dark Fae God Bloodline. Vaan was surprised. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Report chapter comments. Tip, you can use left, right. After multiple god and devil bloodlines appeared during Vaan's blood essence refinement, he realized Gehenna had a more extraordinarily long history than he initially believed. It was hard to imagine how many gods and devils once dominated the realm before becoming a part of history. Was there still any surviving inheritance from that era waiting to be claimed? Nevertheless, out of the 10 types of blood essence he had refined so far, he was undoubtedly surprised by the Dark Fae God bloodline the most. It had triggered another piece of knowledge from his fragmented past life memories to surface. According to Varana's memories, the Dark Fae God clan was part of the 12 guardian clans that ruled over chaos. The power and influence of the 12 guardian clans were only below that of the Lord of Chaos and the Lord of the boundless seas and skies. As such, one could easily understand how astonishing it was to find the Dark Fae God bloodline among the blood essences within the blood bottle provided by Hecate. More importantly, where did she acquire the Dark Fae blood essence? Vaan immediately suspected Hecate's background once more. He had a strong feeling the Dark Fae blood essence and Dark Fae God bloodline came from her. After all, there was little difference between the Dark Fairy clan and the Dark Fae clan. They were arguably identical and hard to differentiate. Anyone could mistake a Dark Fae for a Dark Fairy and vice versa. The only real difference was the length of their history. Gehenna's Dark Fairy clan could only be considered a newborn compared to an ancient behemoth like the Dark Fae God clan. Nevertheless, there was something Vaan didn't quite understand immediately. The Guardian clans were all blessed by the supreme bloodline of their ancestors. Every member born within these clans would be like heaven's chosen compared to the rest of the denizens in chaos. They should be blessed with peerless talents and endless resources. Even if one of their members were born with mediocre talents, they would be reformed with the resources and strength of the Guardian clan. As such, Hecate shouldn't be stuck at peak rank 6 divine being, even if she was only part of a tiny branch family of the Dark Fae God clan. But then again, Vaan couldn't be certain. After all, each Guardian clan ruled an entire chaos verse to themselves, and their people could be as numerous as the sea of stars in chaos. Was Lady Hecate's branch family expelled from the Dark Fae God clan due to some past sin of her ancestors? Vaan guessed. Nevertheless, he could only leave Hecate's private matter for another time. It wasn't right for him to pry if she wasn't willing to open up about it. Shortly after pushing his distracting thoughts to the side, Vaan focused on cultivating the everlasting blood mantra. If there was no issue with the blood essence, reaching the second stage of rejuvenation should be expected. At this stage, his regeneration would become even stronger, and his youthful appearance would be longer lasting. Gehenna, Outer Boundary. At the edge of the star realm, an inconspicuous black starship shuttled through a small asteroid field as it left the star realm behind, eventually disappearing into the depths of the dark reddish void. Helken thought he was being discreet by avoiding the use of teleportation arrays and star gates. However, little did he know Mephistopheles had seen him leaving. Minutes after Helken's black starship disappeared for another star realm, Mephistopheles emerged from the dark side of a U-shaped asteroid. He silently glanced in the direction of Helken's departure before shaking his head. Helken, oh, Helken. Your intentions are so obvious. Who are you trying to fool? Mephistopheles muttered with amusement. Helken had taken off in the direction of the Great Divider. The Great Divider was an incomparably vast void region that drew the boundary of their chaos verse and the next. There was nothing there except space junk and debris left behind by ancient wars. Although anything of value from it would have been taken away long ago, it was still frequented by scavengers and pirates who wanted to try their luck. It was a lawless place of little value, something a great devil such as Helken would find hard to develop a sudden interest in. In other words, the Great Divider wasn't his final destination. Setting the Great Divider as a destination was only meant to serve as a distraction to throw people off in case his secret trip was discovered. His real destination should be elsewhere. Who uses a starship for stellar travels these days when we have teleportation arrays and star gates? Old mate is clearly up to no good, Mephistopheles commented before squinting his eyes in thought. However, he couldn't quite figure out where Helken was ultimately heading. Suddenly, he pinched his fingers together and used them to issue a soundless whistle to the small asteroid field nearby. At first, nothing seemed to happen, even after several dozen breaths. However, 24 figures clad in darkness soon emerged from the dark shadows on the U-shaped asteroid. You summoned us, my liege, one of the dark figures asked. Great Devil Helken has left for the Great Divider on a black starship. Track him and report his movements back to me periodically, Mephistopheles commanded with a rare look of seriousness. Yes, my liege, the 24 dark figures answered simultaneously. Shortly after, the 24 dark figures sank back into the shadows and erased all traces of their presence. It was unknown whether they were still hiding in the area or truly gone. The elusive dark elf tribe was generally good at that stuff, and Mephistopheles was lucky to have been able to chance upon them in his territory and employ their service. I guess I should also pay Lord Thanatos a visit. Mephistopheles thought. Sometime later, Mephistopheles arrived at the edge of the Shadow Cage territory Sea of Darkness and announced his visit. Silence greeted Mephistopheles after he made sure his arrival was known and heard. Lord Thanatos, Mephistopheles seeks an audience. Mephistopheles repeated loudly, feeling a little impatient and displeased. A long sigh was shortly heard from the floating abode above the sea of darkness. 2 visits in 1 day. Today must be my unlucky day. What do you want, Meph? Thanatos asked impatiently without inviting him inside his floating abode. Mephistopheles' lips twitched upon hearing his undesirable nickname. However, he quickly ignored it as Thanatos' words caught his attention. Lord Thanatos, did Helcan pay you a visit earlier? Mephistopheles inquired. Since you already know, why bother asking? Are you trying to waste my precious time, Thanatos replied. Mephistopheles' expression immediately turned somber. Just when Mephistopheles thought his name couldn't get any shorter, Thanatos found a way to exceed his expectations. Moreover, it even made Meph sound like a nice name. After all, at least Meph sounded like a pet name. As for what the hell was even that? An expression of disinterest or annoyance? Could his name fall any lower than that? It had already dropped to the bottom of the abyss. Mephistopheles hyperventilated as he wanted to protest. However, he forcefully suppressed his frustration with a deep breath and calmed down, albeit slightly. Helcan just left Gehenna and took off in the direction of the Great Divider. Are you aware of that, Lord Thanatos? Is that all you wanted to ask? Well, yeah, kinda. ZZZ. Motherfuck dash. I'll take my leave now, Lord Thanatos. Shortly after their brief exchange, Mephistopheles quickly departed with a darkened expression. He feared that if he stayed any longer, he would either be angered to death or angered into cursing, then get beaten to death for it. My apologies. Too much death energy makes me sleepy. Thanatos' half-hearted apology sounded as Mephistopheles was leaving. Bullshit. Mephistopheles cursed in his mind without turning back. He was wrong for expecting something out of Thanatos. After all, Thanatos was most likely the laziest realm lord in the history of Gehenna, in all of chaos. He only knew how to sleep all year round and never personally dealt with any problems. Nevertheless, as dissatisfied as he was, Mephistopheles thought his trip wasn't exactly wasted. At the very least, he found out Thanatos knew about Helcan's departure but had chosen not to take any action. That said, Helcan had not actually done anything that went against their interest yet, and there was nothing wrong with going to the Great Divider. In fact, it wasn't wrong to go anywhere outside Gehenna. However, the timing and secrecy of Helcan's departure proved that he was up to no good. If Thanatos actually waited for Helcan to make a mistake before taking action, it would be too late. Lord Thanatos shouldn't be that stupid. Then, is he actually turning a blind eye to Helcan's action because he secretly approves of it? Mephistopheles frowned in thought. Undoubtedly, Helcan wanted to get rid of the Soul Master. However, Thanatos wasn't doing anything to stop it. Just what is Lord Thanatos' intention? Is he secretly hoping Helcan succeeds in removing the Soul Master? Or is he waiting for Helcan to fail and empty his seat? Mephistopheles wondered. If Helcan disappeared as well, the rest of the great devils would have a new territory to exploit. Moreover, Titanfall was highly rich in Earth-type minerals, if nothing else. Thus, the rare metals would be useful for the development of their own territories. However, Gehenna's strength would drop even further if they also lost Helcan. Furthermore, it was also uncertain what kind of mess Helcan would make. It could prove to be too much for them to clean up after. Did Lord Thanatos not think about this? Why does it seem like I am the only one taking this matter seriously? Mephistopheles frowned. He wasn't sure what everyone's game was, but he wasn't intending to wait and find out. It seems I have to monitor Helcan's movements personally. Mephistopheles thought before paying a quick visit to the Titanfall territory. Meanwhile, the great ash-fallen forest north of Blackthorn City received an unexpected visitor while the Black Rose Empire was at the peak of its rapid development. The moment the burly figure with long silvery gray hair stepped over the dimensional crack connected to Gehenna, the air thickened, winds surged, and dead leaves crackled. It was as if the world of Pangaea itself was trying to announce the person's arrival as the heavenly laws were mobilized to suppress his power. At the same time, the disturbance in the dying forest also drew the attention of nearby mercenaries and scouts. When they arrived at the source of the disturbance, they were quickly shocked by the divine pressure emanating from Balmodon's huge, burly, and furry body. After all, it was far more overpowering than that of a transcendent. Furthermore, it possessed the devilish aspect of Gehenna that made it seem like a dreadful and gloomy place. Great Devil Balmodon. It must be Great Devil Balmodon. The immortal Leaken King. Quickly. I don't care who. Anyone. At least one of us must make it out and alert Her Majesty, a senior witch cried. Although she was able to speak, albeit shakily, her lack of strength and unsteady balance quickly caused her to take a tumble when she turned to escape. I'm going to die. After all, how was it possible for a mere senior witch to outrun a great devil who specialized in power and speed? Nevertheless, she was still in a better position than the ones who were closer to the great devil. Powerlessness could be seen in their eyes. Why were they so quick to investigate the disturbance? When they arrived at the scene, Balmodon's devilish aura had already surged past them by the time they thought of escaping. Nevertheless, outside of everyone's expectations, the overwhelming devilish aura and pressure were suddenly withdrawn back into Balmodon's body. They had retracted so deeply into his being that he seemed like an ordinary Leaken and that everything they had experienced earlier was only an illusion. Killing intent. I apologize for startling you all, humans. I didn't come here to fight, so you can all rest easy, Balmodon said amicably, like some typical grandpa next door. However, despite the absence of hostilities, everyone still looked at him with dread and Apprehension. How could any of them rest easy in the presence of a great devil? Where is Vaan Rafna? I would like to meet him, Balmodin requested earnestly, adding, would appreciate it if someone could lead me to him or point me in his direction. You want to meet Lord Vaan? And you want us to lead you to him or give out his location? Why would we do that? You're just trying to lower our guard, full of distrust. Everyone, don't be fooled by the words of this great devil. If Lord Vaan ends up getting harmed because of our naivety, we'll be eternal sinners, fighting anyone. That's exactly what a suspicious person would say. How do you expect us to believe the words of a devil, let alone the great devil who invaded our world in the past? I don't know what your game is, but you're not fooling anyone. Trembling voice. Balmodin's amicable smile became forced after listening to their distrusting accusation. He almost wanted to lash out at them for their insolence. However, he didn't antagonize the humans. Nevertheless, their courage had certainly grown a lot after he withdrew his oppressive aura from the area. It was easier to be mean than it was to be nice. Like I said, I really have no intention of fighting or hurting anyone. We don't believe you, great devil. Just go back to your world. Yeah. You're not welcome here. We will inform Lord Vaan of your visit after you leave. However, it will be up to Lord Vaan whether he will agree to see dash. Quit fucking around and just tell me where Vaan Rafna is, you cunts. When this king asks, you listen. Balmodin snapped. He lost the last shred of his patience. His oppressive aura instantly covered the region and robbed away everyone's courage. Everyone was immediately drowned in endless fear. Even so, they refused to tell Balmodin anything due to their bottomless respect for Vaan. Balmodin frowned at their stubbornness. Seeing how they were so uncooperative, he was prepared to look around and ask someone else. Even he felt impressed at his self-restraint for not killing these humans for their insolence. Why did you come and bully my people, Balmodin? Ahem, I didn't come here to bully them. They were being unreasonably distrustful and giving me a hard time. Balmodin withdrew his aura awkwardly before saying, you look like someone more reasonable to talk to, Black Rose. I hope you can agree to my request. I truly have no intention of fighting or hurting any more humans. I give you my word. Henrietta was immediately surprised by Balmodin's earnestness and seriousness. Was this still the same great devil who had been at odds with her kingdom for the past hundreds of years? Give me one reason why I should trust you, immortal Leaken King, Henrietta demanded with a frown. Even you won't believe what I say so easily, huh? As frustrating as it is, I suppose it is understandable. Balmodin uttered sullenly before mentioning, I don't know if you have heard about this yet, but we, great devils, have agreed to give Vaan Rafna a chance to become one of us great devils. Should he agree and fulfill the conditions, he will get to choose his own territory, and no other great devil can cause trouble in it without a justifiable reason. Since great devil Hecate has vouched for his talents, I have no doubt he will agree and succeed. Of course, that is not the reason for my visit today. I am not here for official business but to confirm a personal curiosity of mine. Either way, I hope you can see why I am not here to look for trouble, Balmodin said. Henrietta contemplated for a moment before replying coolly, suppose what you say is true. How can you be so sure that Vaan will agree to fulfill your conditions and become a great devil? Because it is the only way for him to live without losing anything, Balmodin indifferently stated, adding, Vaan Rafna has already killed Abaddon. Do you think the rest of us great devils would just do nothing and let him grow if there were no incentives for letting him live? The answer is no. If there were no incentives for keeping Vaan Rafna alive, we would have hunted him until he was dead, Balmodin stated sternly. Henrietta quickly frowned in thought again. At the same time, she also cautioned the mercenaries and witches to leave with a wave of her hand. Moments later, only Henrietta and Balmodin remained in the area with no one else to disturb or eavesdrop on their conversation. It's quite funny that you could say such a thing so seriously, immortal Leaken King. Have you forgotten how you ran with your tails tucked between your legs 300 years ago? Henrietta calmly mentioned. For 300 years since that big war, you did not dare to set foot into these lands again. Yet, here you are now, saying the great devils would hunt my husband if he didn't agree to become one of you. Did the 300 years of relative peace help you forget the terror of that day and regain your courage? What makes you think all of you can return to Gehenna with your lives if you dare come over here to hunt my husband? Henrietta coldly asked. Your husband? No, that's not important. Balmodin was momentarily surprised before he quickly shook his head and turned solemn, asking, how do you know about that day? Did the spirit of the golden dragon tell you that, Black Rose? The spirit of the golden dragon? You think it was the spirit of the golden dragon that scared you off that day? Henrietta suddenly laughed and said, I should applaud you for doing your homework since you know about the golden dragon. Even I do not know if the golden dragon is actually still alive or not. However, I can assure you that it was not the spirit of the golden dragon that scared you off that day, immortal Leaken King. It is ridiculous even to think so. That said, I can't fault you for not recognizing an Empyrean god's aura when you are only a mere peak rank 6 divine being, Henrietta stated, seemingly contemptuous. An Empyrean god. A rank 13 true divinity. Balmodin's pupil shrank into slits before he gave the Black Rose Transcendent Witch a hard look as he re-evaluated his understanding of her. How did a mere transcendent of some desolate and backward realm know about Empyrean gods? Even great devils like him had only ever heard about them and never had the chance to see one. After all, Empyrean gods were peak existences, standing above all but one in chaos. An Empyrean god, you say? I don't know where you heard that term, but you can't bluff me with just that, Black Rose, Balmodin said doubtfully as he tried to see through Henrietta's mind. A bluff, huh? Henrietta smiled, seemingly amused. If a bluff was all it took to scare you off, then it must have been a pretty damn good bluff since it bought Pangea 300 years of relative peace. Since you doubt me, shall I remind you of the horror you felt that day? Henrietta suggested. However, she did not wait for a reply before letting her master partially take over her body. In that instant, the heavenly laws were stirred as they sensed Empyrean Scarletzia's existence and call. Very shortly, the primordial aura of an Empyrean god emanated from Henrietta's body. It didn't feel oppressive and suffocating like Balmodon's devilish aura. However, it completely eclipsed it with its all-encompassing and ancientness. Balmodon's aura was just an infant learning how to crawl in front of that Empyrean aura that seemed like it had been around since the beginning of time. This is. Balmodon's doubtful eyes widened in horror. The familiar aura immediately triggered his memory to recall the scene during the Holy War. Although the aura had been very distantly sensed during that war, it was etched into his memory very vividly. As such, he couldn't have been mistaken, it was exactly the same aura. However, now that he was feeling it again at a much closer proximity, the aura's distinctive traits became clearer to him. Indeed, this kind of primordial aura was far too ancient to belong to a mere divine being. It had surpassed it and entered the realm of true divinity. You. Balmodon stared at Henrietta with disbelief. He had never imagined a mere transcendent figure like her could host such a vast and ancient aura. How was that even possible? You great devils see my husband as a big threat. However, I have always been your biggest threat, be it past, present, or future, Henrietta coolly stated before adding, how bold of you to come back after my first warning. It was unclear whether it was actually Henrietta or Empyrean Scarletzi speaking. This junior apologizes if he has ever offended you, Your Excellency. This junior just had a simple wish of wanting to meet Vaan Rafna out of curiosity. There is definitely no malice or ill will involved. Balmodon humbly lowered his head with a fist-palm salute while breaking into cold sweats. Not a shred of pride or arrogance could be seen in his eyes. The world has always been ruled by the strong. If he wasn't strong, then he had to act accordingly. Go back to your den, immortal Leaken King. My husband isn't here right now. I will inform him of your intent to visit him when he returns. If he wishes to see you, a messenger will be sent to you. There's no need to trouble your excellency like that. If you point this junior in the right direction, he can just dash. I don't want to repeat myself. This junior will humbly take his leave. Shortly after Balmodon bolted back to his territory, the Empyrean aura on Henrietta's body was slowly withdrawn back into her soul, where Empyrean Scarletzi resided. Sorry, master, Henrietta immediately apologized after a short sigh. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Naturally, Henrietta was apologizing for exposing Empyrean Scarletzia's existence and risking the spread of her unique soul constitution. Empyrean Scarletzi had strictly warned her to hide her innate specialty many times since it could draw the unwanted attention of high-level divine beings and threaten their lives. However, Henrietta still chose to rely on Empyrean Scarletzi to send Great Devil Balmodon away. More importantly, Empyrean Scarletzi couldn't even get angry at Henrietta since her action coincided with her own wish. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lent her Empyrean aura to her. There's nothing to be sorry for. It was the most logical choice to make, my dear disciple, Empyrean Scarletzi softly sighed in Henrietta's mind. These great devils have been comfortably used to others following their wills for countless thousands of years. We wouldn't have been able to send the immortal Leaken King back to his territory if we couldn't scare him into believing how powerful we are. Fortunately, exerting some Empyrean aura was all it took to scare him off, Empyrean Scarletzi added. It would have been troublesome if Balmodon had gone to the moon to look for Vaan and find out about its secrets. Master, there's something this disciple doesn't understand. I hope you can enlighten me, Henrietta suddenly requested. Empyrean Scarletzi hesitated for a moment, but she eventually consented with a sigh. What don't you understand? Empyrean Scarletzi asked, but she could more or less guess what her disciple wanted to talk about. In the past, you used to advise me to stay away from love strictly and lecture me on how it would only give me a lifetime of pain and sadness if my partner couldn't match my talent. Yet, you forced me into dual cultivation with Vaan, Henrietta mentioned. Although you told me it was beneficial for my cultivation, you hardly made any effort to remind me not to fall in love. You should have felt the feelings growing inside my heart over time, master. But to date, you still chose not to lecture me on it. You've even made me teach him your true divinity rank cultivation method. Then, there's this instance where you also prioritized Vaan's benefits over our own. You didn't try to stop me at all. From the start, the one you have been trying to help was Vaan and not me. Ever since we met him, I have become your second priority, master. No matter how much I think about it, I can't figure out why you treat him so well. I mean, I can see that you hold a great deal of feelings for him. However, I don't understand how you come to have more feelings for him than me, his officially wedded wife, Henrietta stated. Empyrean Scarletzi was silent for some time before she quietly confessed, because he is the reincarnation of my one and only love, husband, and partner for life, Vanitas. Huh? Henrietta was immediately stunned and confused. Although her master gave her a straightforward answer, it also raised even more questions. But how do you know if Vaan is the reincarnation of your Vanitas, master? And if he was, why didn't he recognize you? Furthermore, I thought you hated him because he betrayed you? Henrietta frowned with endless questions. My dear disciple, Vanitas and I have spent entire lifetimes together. Do you think I wouldn't recognize his unique soul when I see it, given my level of existence? Also, reincarnations aren't guaranteed to remember their past lives, Empyrean Scarletzi softly replied. It was true that Vanitas betrayed me. However, I never have explained to you how exactly he betrayed me, did I? I guess I should have explained that to you first. It was because he broke his promise to me. We were supposed to share life and death, but when the time came, he selfishly sacrificed himself to let me live. That is why I resent him but never hate. Vanitas is the one person I can never hate. I only have respect and endless love for him. You see, he wasn't just my husband but also my master. He cured my illness when no one else could, took me in when I had no one else, and even taught me knowledge that no one else knew. It may have started out as respect and gratitude, but that was how I fell in love with him. Of course, it was forbidden to fall in love with one's master or disciple back in that era. However, I wasn't someone easily swayed by the words of others, not after I had already experienced the lowest point of my life. That said, it still took me 1,000 years of pursuit before my master finally accepted my feelings and became my partner for life. I still remember that moment vividly as the happiest day of my life, Empyrean Scarlet Sea reminisced, feeling bittersweet. She lost count of how many women she had to shoo away from her master when she was still his disciple. If not for her diligent effort, her master most likely would have had many wives and lovers. Alas, happiness couldn't last forever. Everything went wrong with his first death. Master, that is strange. What is? I understand that Master and Mr. Vanitas were a golden couple during your era, and it was very painful to lose him. However, he died very early on while you lived billions of years longer than him. Wouldn't such a long passage of time numb the pain of your loss? Henrietta mentioned. If only it were that simple, my dear disciple, Empyrean Scarlet Sea sadly sighed before saying, it might have been true if I only lost Vanitas once. However, Vanitas shared a sad fate. What do you mean, Master? Henrietta asked curiously. What if I told you that throughout those billions of years, I desperately searched for Vanitas' reincarnations, only to have him die in my arms every time? Empyrean Scarlet Sea sighed. Sadly. The cruel heavens never seem to let his reincarnations live past 100 years no matter what I do to prevent them. Henrietta immediately froze in shock. When she tried to imagine herself in such a situation, she couldn't help but shiver in fear. She wasn't sure if her heart could take it if she had to watch her loved one die over and over for billions of years. Yet, her master was able to do it without fail until her body was destroyed and her soul scattered. She couldn't even begin to imagine the difficulty of searching for the reincarnations of Vanitas across the universe every time. The time and effort put into it must have been astonishing. Furthermore, the reward for said time and effort was limited time with her loved one only to watch him to some cruel fate over and over again. Empyrean Scarletzia's undying deep love for Vanitas shocked Henrietta and made her wonder whether she deserved Vaan. At the same time, she was also worried about whether Vaan could live past 100 years. Why did Vanitas have to suffer such a cruel fate? Master, tell me more about you and Mr. Vanitas, Henrietta requested. How did you manage to find his reincarnations throughout the billion years you lived after his first death? It shouldn't have been easy, right? Did you ever stop to think it was too much and wanted to give up? How were you able to keep going like that? Henrietta asked. My dear disciple, we were dual cultivation partners for thousands of years with no one else but each other. It wasn't wrong to say that we were one part of each other. We were connected on a spiritual level, Empyrean Scarlet Sea stated. When your soul is close to another person like that, you'll realize that you will have the ability to sense wherever they are, no matter where they are. I relied precisely on that vague sense to track down Vanitas' reincarnating soul throughout the cosmos. Alas, even with this vague ability, it hadn't always been easy. Sometimes, it could take thousands of years. Other times, it could even take millions of years, Empyrean Scarlet Sea sighed. Shortly after, she mentioned, you asked me how I could keep searching even when I have to watch Vanitas die each time, but the right question should be why couldn't I stop searching? What couldn't you stop, Master? Henrietta asked. Because if I had stopped, Vanitas' reincarnations would die even more frequently. He was able to live close to 100 years under my protection. But without it, he wouldn't even reach adulthood. Sometimes, maybe not even past infancy, Empyrean Scarlet Sea stated. She only knew because she had been slightly late at least a few dozen times. Those instances were the worst of all her search attempts. Henrietta couldn't help but feel deeply shocked. How could such a cruel fate follow Mr. Vanitas so persistently? Just what did he do to deserve such cruelty from the heavens? Even the most sinful beings in the world wouldn't be condemned to such short lives, right? Henrietta wondered with doubt. There was a time when I wondered the same thing, my dear disciple, Empyrean Scarlet Sea sighed before saying, however, one thing I don't doubt is Vanitas' inherently good nature. I have seen it far too many times. Even without his past memories, his reincarnations would never sin without justifiable cause. As such, he couldn't possibly have such a sinful past life. It can only be said that the heavens do not tolerate his existence. That must be why they trapped him in a cruel cycle of endless reincarnations, Empyrean Scarlet Sea figured. Do you hate the heavens for that, Master? Henrietta wondered. Hate? Hate might be an understatement. My hatred for the heavens ran deep as a bottomless abyss and more boundless than the vast cosmos itself. Empyrean Scarlet Sea stated. Suddenly, she thought of something and said, maybe it was because of my deep hatred that the outer beings arrived and destroyed everything. Surely not. Henrietta didn't find it plausible. However, she still couldn't help but wonder if it was actually true. If her master's hatred for the heavens did summon the outer beings to destroy all of the heavens, how unbelievably deep could her hatred actually be? Henrietta didn't dare to imagine it. Nevertheless, after learning about Vanitas's history and fate from Empyrean Scarlet Sea, Henrietta felt more affectionate toward Vaan. Even if he couldn't remember his past lives, she hoped he would be able to live well in this lifetime. In fact, she thought it would be for the best if he didn't remember any of his past life memories. She feared the countless unfair and unjustly deaths would twist his mind and turn him towards evil. Sea of Stars. Ding. You have assimilated the Dark Minotaur origin blood. You have assimilated the origin blood of 100 different species. You have reached the Everlasting Blood Mantra's second stage of rejuvenation. Your blood energy has improved. Peak rank regeneration has been upgraded to divine rank regeneration. Shortly after Vaan refined the last origin blood in the blood bottle and advanced to the second stage of the Everlasting Blood Mantra, his blood energy underwent a qualitative transformation. At the same time, the qualitative transformation of his blood energy pushed his peak rank regeneration beyond mortal limits and entered the ranks of the divine. By now, Vaan already had a comprehensive understanding of the Everlasting Blood Mantra. However, he also realized there was a limit to how much origin blood he could strengthen with just the Everlasting Blood Mantra alone. As such, he couldn't help the Red Dragon clan awaken their Fire Dragon God bloodline as he had hoped. The Everlasting Blood Mantra seemed to lack something crucial before its full potential could be brought out. Divine energy wasn't enough to satisfy it. If I want to strengthen the Fire Dragon God bloodline of the whole Red Dragon clan effectively, what else do I need? Wood energy? Life energy? The power of light? Or, primal energy? Vaan mused. After pondering for a moment, he suddenly warped the surrounding area with spatial power and entered an isolated subspace. Afterward, he took out a small space rock of little value. Ka-cha. The space rock suddenly disintegrated into nothingness when Vaan applied the power of his nihility law to it. Too much power. Vaan noted before trying again with a new rock. Ka-cha. The new rock partially disintegrated into nothingness, leaving behind some remnant earthly powder. Ka-cha. 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 Vaan repeatedly failed to produce his desired result. With each subsequent failure, he came a bit closer to success. However, his frown also deepened. He shouldn't be this terrible at controlling nihilistic power, even if he had barely used it. External factors are augmenting the power of my nihility law, hence leading to my undesired results. Vaan quickly understood. He realized the nihility law was getting stronger as the world headed toward destruction and nothingness. Nevertheless, after repeatedly failing several hundred times, Vaan finally raised the proficiency of his control to the limit and succeeded in his experiment. A piece of rock was reduced into pure gray essence. Ding. You have successfully refined Grand Mist energy. Analyzing potential effects. So, this is the primal energy that formed everything in this universe, Grand Mist energy? How peculiar. Vaan studied the gray energy. The energy just looked like gray-colored mists. But despite existing in a gaseous state, it seemed surprisingly heavy. Moreover, this sense of heaviness didn't come from its weight. Ding. Grand Mist energy has been analyzed, and a list of suitable choices is available. Please select one of the following choices. Option 1. Reinforce your body with Grand Mist energy and advance your strength and defense attributes by 5 points, respectively. Note, reinforcement effect could be greatly enhanced with a suitable body cultivation method. Option 2. Reinforce your mana core with Grand Mist energy and strengthen the foundation of your mana cultivation. Note, infusing Grand Mist energy into the center of your mana core could potentially utilize the Grand Mist energy's power of attraction to strengthen your mana core's refinement speed, mana recovery, and mana absorption. Note 2. Infusing too much Grand Mist energy will affect the purity of your mana and interfere with your control. Option 3. Reinforce your early stage Heaven Ascension energy core and slightly increase your energy cultivation. Note, reinforcing your energy core with Grand Mist energy will greatly strengthen the foundation of your energy cultivation. Note 2. Reinforcing your energy core with Grand Mist energy will greatly increase the difficulty of your breakthrough to the next realm. Option 4. Infuse Grand Mist energy into your aura to add a heavy aspect to it, increasing its destructive power. Note, infusing Grand Mist energy into your aura will put a burden on your meridians and blood vessels. Option 5. Feed the Grand Mist energy to the heaven-swallowing space and expand its current space by 1%. Vaan was dumbfounded after looking at the effects of Grand Mist energy. It was only a few wisps of Grand Mist energy refined from a small piece of rock, and yet their effects were already so strong. If he could refine an entire mountain into Grand Mist energy, how much could he improve his body or expand his heaven-swallowing space? What about a whole planet's worth of Grand Mist energy? Vaan completely understood why nihility users were both the most desired and hated in chaos. After all, they had the power to turn any matter into primal energy to strengthen their body cultivation to a terrifying degree and become extremely powerful body refiners. At higher levels of body refining, the appetite of nihility users could extend to every celestial body in existence. Everything under the heaven was practically fuel for their body refining. As such, all nihility users were seen as destroyers. Lady Hecate warned me not to use the nihility law carelessly, but it is also necessary to obtain grand mist energy if I want to improve my body refining greatly. Vaan mused. Nevertheless, without a suitable body refining technique, he would only be strengthening his body primitively. It wouldn't be good if he created bottlenecks for himself at higher ranks. Furthermore, he had numerous areas to improve. Thus, he didn't need to focus on body refining for the time being. I've successfully cultivated the everlasting blood mantra, but I have yet to refine the divine blood in Abaddon's left arm to acquire his vampiric bloodline. I wonder if I can still cultivate the divine blood refining art as well. Vaan contemplated. After studying both the everlasting blood mantra and the divine blood refining art, he quickly came to the conclusion that it should be possible. One was a supplementary technique, and the other was a cultivation method. There was no reason for the two to conflict. In fact, practicing both might produce a synergizing effect. If the everlasting blood mantra was about drawing out the latent power hidden within the blood and accumulating it to create stronger blood power, then the divine blood refining art was about extracting existing strong blood power and absorbing it. Although the blood fusion aspect was also covered in the everlasting blood mantra, its effects were limited. Thus, even though the divine blood refining art was far inferior to the everlasting blood mantra, it still had its strength due to the difference in their specialties. It had strong blood fusion effects, albeit with some limitations of its own. The everlasting blood mantra focused on accumulation, which took time and was limited by the readily available and accessible origin blood. On the other hand, the divine blood refining art focused on sheer power growth. As long as there was high-quality blood power to extract and absorb, the blood art would grow rapidly. Of course, as an inferior blood art, the divine blood refining art had a clear disadvantage. The user's mind would be eroded by the malice, resentment, and other negativity of the remnant wills within the blood they absorb. It was also due to this disadvantage that the divine blood refining art was considered an evil art. After all, not only did it require the blood of other living beings to strengthen its user, but its user would also eventually turn into a demonic being with prolonged usage. However, this disadvantage did not exist for Vaan. With his nihility law, he could erase the remnant wills within the blood and turn it into pure blood power. As such, there wouldn't be any malice and resentment of the dead plaguing him. Furthermore, pure blood power would even produce better results. Essentially, this divine rank blood art would be upgraded to a blood art of an entirely higher rank in Vaan's hands. Nevertheless, the divine blood refining art still had another limitation. If Vaan used it to absorb Abaddon's vampiric blood, his divine blood refining art would be limited to the fusion of vampiric blood. The blood of other beings would conflict with the vampiric bloodline. The divine blood refining art is indeed great for rapid growth. However, it is too restrictive in its choice for blood fusion. On the other hand, the everlasting blood mantra is extremely slow, but it can fuse any origin blood. If I can take the strengths of each technique and combine them, I might be able to create a superior technique without any of the knowing disadvantages. Vaan thought. Nevertheless, it was easier said than done. After all, the everlasting blood mantra was a blood technique that came from the mysterious primeval secret realm, which was assumed to be from the primal chaos era. Undoubtedly, it was a blood technique created by some primordial god or devil. To most beings, it would already be considered a perfected technique. Thus, to make a perfect technique reach a higher level of perfection would be a nonsensical idea to them. However, Vaan didn't believe in the impossible. So what if it was a technique created by the primordial gods or devils? He used to be in existence that even surpassed them in his past life. Even if he had yet to recover all his memories, he still possessed vast amounts of fragmented knowledge that could even humble the gods and devils of that bygone era. The everlasting blood mantra and divine blood refining art will be reborn by my hands, Vaan decided. Shortly after, his mind began running simulations to combine the two techniques. Ding! You have combined the everlasting blood mantra and divine blood refining art and created a flawed nameless blood art. Note, this flawed nameless blood art has 98 conflicting points in its blood circulation pathways. Note 2. Cultivating this flawed nameless blood art will cause extensive damage to your meridians and blood vessels. Ding! You have combined the everlasting blood mantra and divine blood refining art and created a flawed nameless blood art. Note, this flawed nameless blood art has 87 conflicting points in its blood circulation pathways. Note 2. Cultivating this flawed nameless blood art will cause extensive damage to your meridians and blood vessels. Ding! You have combined the everlasting blood mantra and divine blood refining art and created a flawed nameless blood art. Note, this flawed nameless blood art has 9 conflicting points in its blood circulation pathways. Note 2. Cultivating this flawed nameless blood art long-term will cause permanent deformations in your meridians and blood vessels. Vaan ran countless virtual simulations in his mind. However, he was unable to overcome the last 9 points of conflict in the new blood circulation path. This imposed limit of 9 points of conflict was based on his body's existing meridians and blood vessels. In other words, he couldn't reduce the conflicting circulation points anymore, no matter how many more simulations he ran in his mind. However, since he knew the problem, it was easy to find the solution. Since the limit was imposed on his current body, he only needed to alter his meridians and blood vessels by forging new ones to address the 9 points of circulation conflicts. After running his mental simulations, Vaan concluded that he only needed an extra vessel to erase the 9 circulation conflict points completely. Given his present abilities and the system, he was fully capable of carrying out the vessel forging. The typical human body had 12 main meridians and 8 extraordinary vessels. But soon, he will have a 9th extraordinary vessel. Ding! You have mapped out the position and form for the 9th extraordinary vessel. Note, the 9th extraordinary vessel will eliminate the remaining 9 circulation conflict points in the nameless blood art. Ding! You have optimized the 9th extraordinary vessel. The optimized 9th extraordinary vessel is expected to provide improved blood circulation, aura control, mana flow, stamina recovery, and purify blood quality, extending your lifespan by 15%. Vaan wasn't satisfied with forging the 9th extraordinary vessel just for the sake of his nameless blood art alone. The 9th extraordinary vessel had to be able to function as if it had always been an essential part of the body. Humans were born imperfect. That was why they could pursue perfection. There was room for improvement. The 9th extraordinary vessel was just one such improvement. He was told that the human body possessed the greatest potential in chaos. However, he had a different opinion. Humanity's greatest potential didn't lie in their body but in their intelligence. It was because of human intelligence that humans were able to develop knowledge to improve their imperfect bodies. The reason denizens of chaos believed the human body contained the greatest potential wasn't because it was true, it had the greatest potential because it had been the most explored. Humans owed their glory to the human ancestors who preceded them. It was the human ancestors who had toiled hard with blood, sweat, and tears in order to leave behind their knowledge for the future generations of humanity. That was why humans could become one of the ruling races of chaos. I'll call this 9th extraordinary vessel the Harmony Vessel. Shortly after deciding on the name, Vaan immediately commenced the vessel forging. He guided his regenerating blood outside of its usual routes, turning them into the walls of the new extraordinary vessel. Ding! The Harmony Vessel is being forged. Your blood power is being consumed. Your soul force is being consumed. Your divine energy is being consumed. Your pure mana is being consumed. Your dragon aura is being consumed. Ding! The Harmony Vessel has been successfully forged. No issues in the Harmony Vessel have been detected. Your blood circulation, aura control, mana flow, and stamina recovery are improving. Your Harmony Vessel has begun purifying microtoxins in your bloodstream. The self-created nameless blood art can be cultivated without any detrimental effects. Even without the system informing him, Vaan could feel all the changes in his body. It was just as he expected. Even the air he breathed in felt more refreshing and empowering. Nevertheless, Vaan still wasn't ready to cultivate his self-created nameless blood art. His Harmony Vessel had just been forged, it wasn't prepared to endure such an intense burden. From cultivation. Ding! You have consumed the divine rank stalactite milk. You have begun immolating your Harmony Vessel. Your Harmony Vessel is undergoing a process of destruction and recreation. Ding! You have tempered your Harmony Vessel. You have tempered your Harmony Vessel. You have tempered your Harmony Vessel. Your Harmony Vessel has been tempered to the transcendent rank. In the blink of an eye, 6 hours passed before the Harmony Vessel could reach a satisfactory level of tempering. Finally, with all but one of the necessary steps taken, Vaan was almost ready to cultivate the nameless blood art he had created by perfectly merging the everlasting blood mantra and divine blood refining art. Of course, the last preparation was to remove the remnant will hidden with Abaddon's left arm. Inside the isolated subspace, Vaan effortlessly erased all of Abaddon's remnant will with the nihility law in a few dozen breaths. Compared to turning matter into primal energy, snuffing out the last wisps of Abaddon's will was much easier. At last, I have finished creating the optimum condition to absorb Abaddon's divine blood. It's time to see how effective this self-created blood art truly is, Vaan thought. After all the troubles he had to go through to reach this step, he naturally developed a sense of anticipation. Who wouldn't look forward to enjoying the fruits of their labor? Shortly after conditioning his mental state, Vaan began refining the first drop of Abaddon's ownerless divine blood. Without any lingering will in it, the divine blood became pure and docile blood energy. It did not resist nor try to defy his calling the moment he operated his nameless blood art, which he later called the everlasting blood refining art. In order to refine and assimilate the divine blood, Vaan couldn't introduce it into his body directly, at least not at his present stage in the everlasting blood refining art. First, he sliced open a wound on his wrist and allowed his blood to flow. Afterward, with the guidance of divine energy, his blood formed a high-spinning vortex. The drop of divine blood was dropped right into it to be cleansed of impurities. Of course, Vaan could skip this step by purifying the divine blood with his nihility law. However, he would also be missing out on an integral part of the cleansing process. After all, he wasn't just cleansing the divine blood but marking it with his will, claiming ownership of it. It was the first of the 3 main steps to absorbing the bloodline in the divine blood. The divine blood was washed to receive the mark of acknowledgement. During this step, the divine blood was also broken down into countless blood particles. Next came the rite of passage, introducing the divine blood particles into his bloodstream for refinement by circulating them through his 12 meridians and 9 extraordinary vessels. This second step was called the acceptance acquisition stage. After receiving the mark of acknowledgement, the divine blood had to be circulated throughout his bloodstream to familiarize itself with his blood. If his blood rejected the divine blood and deemed it as a foreign impurity, then his first step was considered incomplete or flawed. If not, then the divine blood would become a resident in his body but not quite a part of him. As such, the final step was necessary, the blood fusion step of integrating the divine blood with his own. It was like letting the divine blood particles parasitize his own origin blood to acquire their vampiric traits. However, the parasitization was not aggressive. As such, the vampiric divine blood would not destroy the existing traits of his blood and only add to it. This was the advantage of the original everlasting blood mantra. Nevertheless, without the nihility law purifying the remnant wills, this step would have been no different from injecting corruption. Ding! You have assimilated a drop of vampire lord origin blood. You have acquired the divine rank vampire blood and you have gained some insights into the blood law. Your body has been slightly strengthened by rich blood energy. You have entered an energized state due to excess blood energy. Until the excess blood energy is depleted, you will not experience physical and regeneration fatigue. The first divine blood was refined and assimilated without an issue. However, due to the limited amount of vampire lord origin blood, Vaan only acquired a very weak vampire bloodline. The vampire bloodline could only improve his body slightly and not bring out some of the distinctive traits of a vampire lord. Nevertheless, Vaan still had 9,999 drops of divine blood. Thus, he wasn't concerned about being unable to awaken the latent abilities of a vampire lord. Moreover, he was unlikely to use all of the divine blood to cultivate the everlasting blood refining art. Ultimately, Abaddon's divine blood was of inferior quality. Although it was at the divine rank, that was also the limit of its potential. Refining it would only help cultivate his blood arts to peak rank 6. If Vaan wanted to surpass it, he still had to assimilate many more types of origin blood and of higher quality to evolve his blood power and raise his understanding of the blood law continuously. Abaddon's divine blood was only a means to an end, not the goal. Nevertheless, after refining the first divine blood, next came a second one, then a third, a fourth. Vaan continued to refine and absorb the divine blood within Abaddon's left arm. At the same time, his blood cultivation improved very rapidly. Ding! You have assimilated a drop of vampire lord origin blood. Your divine rank vampire bloodline has been strengthened. You have gained further insights into the blood law. As Vaan continued to assimilate the divine blood, his body became incredibly overloaded with excess blood energy. Thus, he intermittently put a pause to the cultivation of the everlasting blood refining art and expended his excess blood energy through blood practices. As a result, his blood control and understanding of the blood law improved quickly alongside his blood cultivation. After assimilating 100 drops of divine blood, his blood power had reached the transcendent rank. At 1,000 drops, it would most likely achieve the divine rank. It was clear that the divine blood contained an incredible amount of concentrated blood energy. Ding! You have assimilated a drop of vampire lord origin blood. Your divine rank vampire bloodline has been strengthened. You have gained further insights into the blood law. Ding! Your everlasting blood, incomplete, has mixed with your dragon aura. Your dragon aura has acquired some traits of your everlasting blood, incomplete, your dragon aura has turned into blood dragon aura. Although most of Vaan's dragon aura was stored in his heart, it also flowed through his 12 main meridians and 9 extraordinary vessels. Thus, he had already anticipated it would mix with his blood power. Now, his blood dragon aura didn't just possess the overbearing trait of a dragon but also the tenacious aspect of his incomplete everlasting blood. Once he had cultivated the everlasting blood refining art to completion, his blood dragon aura would most likely acquire undying tenacity. In other words, if his blood dragon aura faced an aura-destroying power, it would stubbornly resist its destruction through regeneration. However, Vaan discovered an impossible problem while he was assimilating the divine blood. He was feeling rage and malice growing inside of him, which shouldn't have been possible. After all, he had already erased every last trace of Abaddon's remnant wills, turning the entire 10,000 drops of divine blood into pure, ownerless divine blood. Furthermore, with his fourth dimensional sense active, it was also impossible for him to have missed any insignificant trace of Abaddon's remnant wills. Despite all that, it was also undeniable that he could feel rage and malice growing inside his heart. This shouldn't be possible. Vaan frowned as he temporarily halted blood cultivation. Upon further investigation, he soon realized the rage and malice growing in his heart wasn't due to the influence of Abaddon's remnant wills he may have unnoticeably absorbed. Furthermore, it wasn't born from assimilating the divine blood, it was from his increased comprehension of the blood law. The blood law was the problem. However, Vaan had never heard of the heavenly laws possessing any corrupting influence. If such a problem existed, Hecate would have at least given him a warning regarding it. As such, it didn't seem to be the case. That said, Hecate didn't comprehend the blood law. Thus, it could be a problem that she didn't know about, even if it seemed improbable. I've already comprehended several laws, yet such a problem never came up. This problem only appears for the blood law. Why is that so? Vaan frowned. He suddenly wondered if the blood law possessing corrupting influence had anything to do with it being a part of the Azura law, governed by the Lord of Chaos. Given the amount of bloodshed spilled by the Lord of Chaos, it might be possible for the sheer amount of vengeful spirits to integrate with the blood law and awaken such a corrupting ability. The Lord of Chaos is twisting the blood law? Does that mean everyone who comprehends the Azura law or blood law will be twisted into a devilish person? Vaan followed on his guess. However, he quickly scratched the thought. If such a problem existed, it would have been widely spread across all of chaos already. Thus, in that situation, it was also impossible for Hecate not to know about it. But if there's no problem with the blood law, where does my rage and malice come from when my comprehension increases? Vaan's frown deepened. After encountering such a situation, he realized he wouldn't be able to rest until he looked into the bottom of it. He didn't need sleep, he needed answers. The sense of rage and malice is still very insignificant. It won't pose a problem in my decision-making. Should I take a risk? Vaan wondered. He was very close to acquiring the blood authority. After briefly contemplating the matter, Vaan eventually decided to increase his comprehension a little more to achieve the milestone. Ding! Your understanding of the blood law has reached 1%. You have reacquired blood authority. You can now control the blood law with soul force. Reacquired. Vaan's pupils shrank, and his heart instantly turned heavy. A stronger feeling of rage and malice was born within him. Moreover, it seemed particularly biased toward witches. Ding! An illogical error has been detected. The system has no records of the host acquiring blood authority in the past. Previous chapter. Next chapter. After seeing the last notification from the system, Vaan was suddenly enlightened. He had always felt something wasn't right when he received the horrible visions of himself slaughtering witches, including his close and loved ones. In those visions, his other self was completely foreign to him and held great hatred towards the witches. In fact, that other him couldn't tolerate anyone or anything that slighted him. It was clear that he had a terrible history for him to turn out that way. Originally, he thought his fourth-dimensional sense had touched upon his alternate self from a parallel timeline. However, Vaan couldn't have been more wrong. In reality, the other version of himself was still him all along. However, his memories and all of the events leading up to the present and future were all deleted from history. Someone or something had reversed time to his 18th year and erased or sealed away all of his prior memories in this life. As a result, his memories of his previous life on Earth became the dominant thought, making him believe his soul had reincarnated into another body. However, the truth of the matter was that his soul had reincarnated through the normal cycle of rebirth all along, not through body possession. It all made sense to him. After all, Vanitas's life and all of his million reincarnations had always entered the cycle of rebirth as a newborn. Why would his current life be anything different? The answer was that it wasn't. His first 18 years of life and the original future timeline had all been erased by some powerful temporal law. Moreover, there were clues suggesting he had lived much longer in the lost timeline. After all, his current chaos verse was already on the brink of collapse. Yet, it had barely started its integration with chaos. Even if outer beings sped up the destruction of his chaos verse, how could the chaos verse be so advanced in its destruction cycle, but the merging process with chaos had only just begun? Just thinking about that, Vaan estimated time must have been reversed by several thousands or even tens of thousands of years at the very least. Moreover, the change brought about by the powerful temporal law only seemed to have been limited to Pangaea and Gehenna. Nevertheless, the power to cover such a large space and reverse its time by countless years wasn't the kind of power anyone could possess. Even an Empyrean god like Empyrean Scarlet Sea might not have been capable of such a feat, even if she did specialize in the temporal law, not to mention there were more than the temporal laws involved. After all, Vaan was at the center of this cosmic yet forgotten change. Every trial I have overcome was not easy, but they weren't despairingly impossible either. My fortuitous encounters were also far too good and coincidental. Now, there's this piece of information, I knew someone or something had been secretly guiding my fate, but to actually find out it was true. Vaan mused wryly. There was only one person who could be so capable and would give him such attentive care, the Lord of Chaos. It seemed that after nearly 2 chaos cycles, the Lord of Chaos had tracked down his big brother's soul. However, the current reincarnation of Varuna at that time was not the kind of big brother he had hoped to see. Instead, what the Lord of Chaos found was a second Azura in the making. Veilfor Rafna. Vaan thought as the name suddenly came to mind. It seemed to be the name of the original him who had been erased or sealed away by the Lord of Chaos. Given the clues, he was more likely sealed than erased. After the Lord of Chaos found me, he must have been disappointed and saddened to see his big brother's reincarnation become an Azura and share no resemblance to the original Lord of the boundless seas and skies. However, he could neither bear to send me through reincarnation again nor risk losing track of my soul, even if he most likely wouldn't have. As such, he reversed time and sealed my memories. That should be the case. Vaan speculated. The selective awakening of his past memories only further proved his speculation. After all, why couldn't he awaken all of his past life memories at once? Why did he only remember his deaths and not his growth, experiences, and knowledge? The Lord of the boundless seas and skies would have vast knowledge of everything under the heavens, including beyond true divinity rank cultivation methods and godly arts. Alas, he remembered none of them in their complete form. Vaan could only assume it was another one of the Lord of Chaos's arrangements. The Lord of Chaos was honoring one of his big brother's wishes to surpass him. The Lord of boundless seas and skies wouldn't be able to surpass the outerverse originator realm if he only recultivated what he already knew. That had to be why his past memories were filtered to open up a new possibility. one that didn't rely upon past life knowledge to reach the current known apex of cultivation. At the same time, the Lord of Chaos carefully selected such memories to prepare his mind. Valefor's memories must be unimaginably traumatic and awful if you had to go through all the troubles of arranging my past life memories like this, my little brother. Vaan smiled ruefully. However, since I have reached this step, it must mean that I am ready to remember Valefor's past, right? Although there was no one to answer his question, he was clear on what to do. As such, there was no longer a reason to fear his mind getting consumed by Valefor's rage and malice. After all, these negative feelings didn't belong to someone else, they were originally his. Thus, it shouldn't corrupt or break him. I have already experienced the glorious highest height and the despairing lowest low of all my past lives, and that did not twist or break my mind. So, how can the memories of a single life will? Vaan thought. Shortly after, he resumed his blood cultivation with the everlasting blood refining art. The divine blood from Abaddon's left arm was extracted and refined at an even quicker pace than before. He had to make up for the lost time, but he was also fully capable of increasing his cultivation speed risk-free. Due to his unfamiliarity and various unknown factors, he had only been cultivating conservatively until now. Ding! You have assimilated a drop of Vampire Lord Origin blood. Your divine rank vampire bloodline has been strengthened. You have gained further insights into the blood law. As Vaan continued to raise his comprehension of the blood law, Valefor's rage and malice grew stronger within his heart. Evidently, increasing his understanding of the blood law weakened the seal of Valefor's memories. If the Lord of Chaos never intended for him to remember his life as Valefor, Vaan didn't believe he would have left behind such obvious flaws. After all, how could the system know he had acquired blood authority before but not have any records of it? If the time was properly reversed for the system as well, such an event should have been treated as if it had never happened. As such, it was more likely to be an obvious flaw left behind by the Lord of Chaos to help him figure out his past. Ding! You have assimilated a drop of Vampire Lord Origin blood. Your divine rank vampire bloodline has been strengthened. You have gained further insights into the blood law. Ding! An unknown powerful seal has been discovered in your sea of consciousness. Beginning to analyze the unknown powerful seal. Ding! The unknown powerful seal is deemed to be unbreakable by any known power below beyond true divinity rank. However, it has a fixed condition for its automatic unsealing. The unknown powerful seal is estimated to be fully unsealed once your comprehension of the blood law reaches the first stage of the divine rank. Current comprehension of the blood law, middle stage demigod rank. As Vaan continued to loosen the seal with his increasing understanding of the blood law, even the seal's existence could no longer remain hidden in his sea of consciousness. Out of curiosity, Vaan peeked into his sea of consciousness with fourth dimensional sense. His sea of consciousness was like a universe filled with countless stars and boundless space. Each star contained vast amounts of information and knowledge, including his memories. At the same time, the stars were interconnected with each other by the light they shone and illuminated through the darkness of his sea of consciousness. In fact, the starlight might just be information transferring at light speed. Nevertheless, his soul core, the essence of his being, was situated right at the very center of it all. Moreover, not far away from his soul core, a blood-red star had appeared, flickering with ominous and gloomy crimson light. He didn't doubt that the blood-red star had always been in that particular spot. It was just that up until now, all traces of his existence had been hidden and sealed away. Just by observing the blood-red star, Vaan could almost sense an incomparably thick scent of blood exuding from it. However, this sense of smell was only an illusion created by its bloody aura. He was silently surprised as it gave him a slight glimpse into how much blood had been spilled in Valefor's life. Even if I killed everyone in Pangea and Gehenna, I wouldn't carry such a bloody aura, right? Vaan wondered. It seemed like there were a lot of secrets locked away in Valefor's memories.